Hello and welcome to another episode of the Nordic Takedown, episode number 25. Uh, the Star Wars Unlimited podcast, of course, that everyone knows. I'm so humble, and I am here today with Jonah, the Norwegian with friends.
Hello, guys. Yeah, it's just the two of us today. We were gonna have it yesterday, but I couldn't because I was moving back to Trondheim. And today, Jason got the chance to attend the draft. So maybe we'll hear about that next week.
Yeah, most likely. He usually likes to talk about his drafts,
Yeah.
which he should.
Yes.
Drafts are fun. He usually has like his different takes on how to play draft. So we'll see if he took it super competitive this time or if he like played 3 different decks.
I saw some pictures and I saw a Han, like the new Han with green, I think. That could be pretty nice.
Maybe he went full aggro. Maybe.
Yeah.
Before we go into the episode today, we are going to talk about the budget decks. That was a long time ago. Me and Jason, before you, Jonah, joined into the podcast, we talked a lot about like how to play Star Wars Unlimited on a budget because it was quite expensive in the beginning with the shortage.
Yeah.
So that's a segment we haven't done in like a long time. So we are gonna talk a little bit about that budget decks, and then these niche decks that are outside the meta, but that still could be good to bring to tournaments if you like put in the practice, and stuff like that. But first, we are starting with some positive news. Jonah, do you want to tell it?
Yeah. Jason has actually got some merch. We've just arrived, and I think he brought it to his locals. We have gotten some new playmats.
Yeah.
So they are with the Nordic Takedown logo in the center, and then it's kind of a line to divide ground and space, which looks really good. And the Nordic Takedown text in the bottom. So we'll post some pictures on our Discord. And we will bring a limited number to Malmö Game Week. So you can purchase if you want.
Yeah, and if you want to like really make sure you get a hand of one, you can like text one of us on Discord and say, "Hey, I want this. I'm coming to Malmö Game Week," or maybe you're not coming to Malmö Game Week. We can post it. Of course, we have to make sure the shipment costs and stuff like that. But and if they are immensely popular, obviously we will order more. There's no problem.
And it's worth mentioning that we do this just for the fun of it and for giving something to you guys. If you want that, it's not to make any money or profit. To be honest.
No, we're not going rich on these ones. I think we are selling them for around 250 Swedish crowns. And which is about what a playmat costs. Maybe a little bit less, or about the same, depending on the quality and the what would you say, company you buy it from.
Yeah.
If EA would make a playmat, it would be way more expensive.
So Adam, what? I was gonna just ask you the same thing. I was thinking, what did we talk about last week? Do you remember?
We talked mostly about spoilers, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have been really excited to see some new spoilers. Looks like we're going to get streams every Wednesday. I don't know, like we did earlier, maybe.
Nice.
But at least the streams are starting back up, and today some really cool art was posted actually, like with Darth Maul and Palpatine. Would look very sick on the playmat. A friend of mine told me. But we have both been playtesting a lot.
That's true.
So we, of course, are getting to know the meta, playing mostly online. So it's not that easy to have a grasp of what the meta is, because if you, for instance, play on Carabast, you can play against completely random people. Sometimes
they
I
don't
just
have to be
write.
in your locals, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I write on Canvas like meta decks only to try to make people play the popular decks like Kira, Sabine, and Boba.
Yeah, I usually write competitive, but then there is like the random Finn deck coming in, and I was like, maybe he wants to try to be like, see if he can be competitive with the deck, and I guess I just play him.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we've also been playing in Top Cut. I have my semifinals tomorrow. So if you want to watch that, Adam, you're gonna stream it, right?
Yes, I think streaming it will be the without camera, but so you don't get to see my face. But I think I'm gonna be able to stream it on Twitch,
Or the YouTube channel, maybe.
or maybe the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Yeah. So this episode will probably be posted after that has been posted.
Yeah,
So you
maybe
can
depends
check
on
out
Jason.
in the Discord if you can't find it, or check out the Nordic Takedown YouTube channel if you want to see the game and Adam's live commentary.
Oh yeah, the sick commentary. At least there is like the decks I kind of know about, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting. It's always interesting to do a cast yourself, like to make it interesting. You cannot have this conversation. You only have it with yourself.
Yeah.
So, but it's gonna be
That is
fun.
true.
It's gonna be fun to see you go to the finals. And
Don't
get
say that.
a member from here to go there. It's your second try, right, in the semis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be as confident as I was last time. Last time I was facing a Grand Inquisitor deck. And I just played so bad and got so greedy and got mega finished. So this time I'm trying to stay humble and just do my best.
Yeah, I was so surprised that time to see that it wasn't going to be a Han mirror, because I think was it the one that Thork won or something?
Yes,
yeah,
indeed. Yeah.
With Han Green, I was like, oh, this is going to be a Han mirror, but no.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have that coming up for you. So it's good. Personally, I have been testing a lot as well. A lot of testing and failing, to be honest. A lot of like, which is good, I guess. Like if you are supposed to practice, you want to have the losing games in practice, so you can try to make your way around it.
But I think it's also something we should talk about, that it's easy to be discouraged when you suddenly go on a losing spree and think, no, this deck it doesn't work, right? But sometimes it might be good to just take a step back. Yeah, maybe look at the deck. Is there some slight changes you could make? Sometimes that can make a huge difference. Let's say if you're facing a lot of aggro and you don't have that many turn 1 plays, and you don't have the consistency of like getting the answers you need, then that can completely just make you lose games, even though the deck might be really good in the mid and late game.
Yeah. So I've been doing that. We are closing up to the Monday game week, so it's starting to be the time to actually decide decks. So I'm not 100% yet locked in, but I'm getting there. I think it's down to like 2 decks or something now, and we'll see.
The list is always getting shorter.
Yeah.
But I feel like the meta has been evolving a little bit, and there are a lot of decks you like. The gauntlet of decks to beat is kind of not that small anymore.
No, it's not that small, and it's quite a lot different from the Gen Con one, where everyone was talking about Boba Yellow and Sabine Green, and then Han Yellow as the outsider. And like that's all there is to play. And that's where we got the surprise Kira, victory. And since Kira actually entered in, like when she won that tournament, she really entered the meta, and that has kind of shifted a lot of things around the meta. So you cannot really say you have to beat just those 3 decks. You have to really respect Kira, and then Han Blue and Han Green, the new Han Blue and the new Han Green, has gained a lot of popularity as well.
Sip and Beton to players also playing in the Take the Initiative League. They have a YouTube channel called Swoop Racers. They finished first and second, both with Han 2 green. So that kind of makes me think that we will see a little bit more of that deck.
Yep, it's not an easy deck to pilot at all.
No.
But that is such a unit-based deck. If you look at those, I think there is like, is it over 40 units, I think, or something?
Probably, yeah.
It's kind of nice to see like both these Han decks, the new Han decks that has arrived, is very unit-based.
Yeah.
In a way, like the old mid-range decks have been like a little bit events and units, but here is like really clear focus on units. So that is fun to see. And it's cool that this is happening right before Malmö. Both frustrating and cool at the same time, but also good because the Store Showdown season is coming up. The first ones in Sweden has been announced now, so they will probably drop in here. Probably September and October will be the months for the tournaments.
Yeah. From what I heard in Norway, they got directions that they had to do it in September, actually.
Yeah, that's what they said last time to people here in Sweden, and they tried to push it, and then from nowhere there was like tons of the Store Showdowns in June. So we'll see how that ends up, I guess.
Yeah. On the topic of Han, I actually have a announcement. Late Night Gaming has been doing a thing they call Only Han's Week, where they had like a master class on Han Yellow, then Han Blue, and now they're gonna have one on Han Green.
Yeah.
So Han Yellow and Green being the set 1, and the Han Blue video of set 2. And a player I've played with a little bit called Sunny, he was invited to go there and invited me to tag along. So I'm probably going to post that in the Discord when that gets released around this week. So if you want to hear more about Han set 1 green, a deck that hasn't changed much in the meta, but might be a lot better positioned now that the meta is changing a little bit more towards control.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
Yeah. So a lot to look forward here to in September, and it's starting hot in Sweden and in the Nordic countries with the Malmö Game Week, with over 70 signups, which is really cool. And so here we are. We're going to talk about budget decks as a starting point. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there is like a lot more cards now in this set. And now, well, not in this set, but with 2 sets coming in. And we haven't really talked about how to make a budget deck like we did in set 1, where Sabine was the clear budget deck, because it was like not having any legendaries. I think Sabine and Leia was the one we were talking about, was the clear budget deck. So there was like a lot of these at the tournaments. Now, though, Sabine is not really a budget deck anymore, with 3 Poe-Damerons in it and maybe one somewhere between 0 and 3 Darksabers. And like red 3 Drakos and Wrecker, all of those are like the more expensive rares as well. So what are the budget decks now? Are they as competitive as before, or do you feel like it's been becoming a little bit more pay to win than from set 1?
I think I haven't really seen any clear meta decks that kind of strike budget to my mind, except for Tarkin Yellow.
Yeah.
Tarkin Yellow is like a deck that became popular pretty early in the set 2 meta and doesn't use any legendaries.
What's the focus of that deck?
That's a very space heavy deck.
Yeah.
And it also kind of revolves a little bit around the triple dark raid. So
A card we were really hyped about in the beginning.
Yeah, so you could play ATSTs and reinforcement walkers that enter ready. And of course, all of the spaceships, because all of those are vehicles.
True.
So in case you don't know, Triple Dark Raid costs 3 and lets you look at the top 7 cards for a vehicle and play it with a cost reduction of 5, and it enters play ready. And then at the end of the phase, you have to bounce it.
Yeah. So you actually still you net 1/1 with cards in hand, so you don't back in a card, and you get like a powerful unit out to do some damage right away.
Yeah.
And as you said, it was quite popular in the beginning when I wasn't playing at all, since I was doing like vacation. So it had already started to fade out a bit when I started to play again. I still think this is like a deck you could expect to see at larger events, at least, and it's can still threaten, right?
Definitely, yeah.
You
have some other nice plays like the new what's it called, a Imperial unit from the starter set. I think that's a 2/2 that kind of
you're thinking
attacks
of
first.
Oh yeah,
like
that
like
first.
Han.
Which one was
Incinerator
that?
Trooper, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that it was a vehicle on my mind, so I was like moving over it. But yeah, that one is a bit cool. And of course, the lurking TIE Phantom is very cool.
Yeah.
It can't get removed. So if you don't want to spend so much money, or like if you're new to the game and still want to go to an event, it doesn't have to be like Malmö Game Week, but like a store showdown coming up, I think this is a good deck to start with, I would say.
Yeah.
It is not super complicated to play either. Like Grand Moff Tarkin is like quite basic, with like you give an experience token and stuff like that. He's not like you're not playing around your leader, since he's like not a huge threat when he comes out.
Yeah.
But
and I think many of the meta decks we see now include legendaries that are not so essential. Like, of course, they make the deck better. There's a reason for them being there, but you could probably do well with just some other replacement for those cards.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the new Sabine deck.
Yep.
If you maybe only have 1 or 2 Poes and no Dark Sabers, I think that deck still thrives in the meta. The Wreckers are mega nice, and you could even play like a IG 11 instead of Poe. It's not going to be as powerful, but it's pretty good to use with ECL to get that on attack trigger.
Yeah, that's true. We got if we move finish just on the Tarkin yellow, like I'm just gonna say, if you play, there is like one deck out on the SWU-DB that was created like early. It's one of the most popular one by Ace Attack. That one goes for like $44. So it's under like €50 budget.
And that's with prices from TCG players, I think, right?
Yeah, something like
so it's probably a lot cheaper on the card market.
Yeah, could be. So, and if you have like people around you, you can trade, and like it's not gonna be hard to make this deck, basically.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do that, and like we can jump over to the Sabine a little bit here then. And have you any more suggestions about how to make that still good, but like a little less expensive?
To be honest, I think the Dark Sabers are good, but they're very situational.
Yeah.
So I think you're fine with just
cutting them.
Yeah. There's so many other great cards to play in Sabine, so you could put in some heroic resolves. I think
Yeah.
they're really great because they only cost 1, and you can kind of squeeze them in whenever you have some leftover resources.
Yeah. You could also play like a bit. It is a 1-drop, so that's good. Like play a bit more 1-drops instead, because then still X-wing leader and fleet lieutenant on turn 4 with a 1-drop still becomes like a solid
exactly.
a solid round, because what Darksaber does is pretty much like now you have K2 and Darksaber, which is some
Yeah.
power play on turn 4.
Yeah.
But wing leader plus like maybe let's just say R2 or something like that is still a pretty good one. Good play. So another budget deck that is kind of budget is Boba Red. Who is starting to pop up. It does have a legendary in it. It's Kylo's Tile Silencer. I do think, however, they only run 2. And as you said, it's not the most important card in the deck just because it's a legendary. So you could probably play 2 other spaceship and the deck will still be fine.
Yeah.
Obviously a bit worse. It is a space focused deck, so you want as much power in the space as possible. But that deck does also work fairly well in the meta, I would say.
Yeah. It's kind of scary, actually, that there exists these decks that kind of have such a niche focus.
Yep.
Because if you're building a deck and you have no tools to deal with space, and you suddenly meet this space only Boba Red, then that can just be very difficult to deal with.
Yep. So that is, I do not have like a build in front of me of the deck.
Yeah.
But there is like channels, I think, as you mentioned on Swoop Racers, they go through one version of it.
Yeah.
It also revolves a little bit like around the Triple Dark Raid, just as the Tarkin one. So they are doing a little bit similar stuff, but
Yeah.
solid decks that haven't like taken like number 1 or 2 spots in the meta. But
Yeah.
this Boba Red is a bit newer, so I am not comfortable saying if it's great, medium, or bad.
Yeah.
I would say.
I think it's definitely a good deck, but I don't know how it's like how matchups are in the current meta.
No. Yeah.
If it can perform well in a tournament setting.
And the last one of the budget decks is, I actually don't have the deck list at all. I have just faced it on Karabast a few times, and it's actually a lot scarier than I thought. It is Lando. People are gonna laugh, like there is no good Lando decks out there. People are gonna say, but it's like some sort of smuggle aggro Lando list that someone is playing, and like it's actually faster than Sabine. So I think it's a good deck against 25 HP bases.
Yeah.
And what I've seen so far, they don't use any legendaries. They just play these small units in the beginning. They want these DL blasters, this arm to the teeth thing that you can smuggle in, like for 2 cheaper with Lando, and just put on some massive pressure on turn 3. They flip Lando, and then they use that ability, and like actually gets a pretty oppressive board. So even Sabine has to play defense against those decks, which is quite interesting.
I think the jetpacks are also super scary with Smuggle.
Yeah.
Giving shield and +2, that is just so hard to deal with Lando. When he's suddenly 4/4 shielded.
And like he can just actually probably just keep laying around there on 4 resources. Like he destroys one and then he draws a new smuggle card, puts it down, and play one and destroy, which is quite cool that we have these decks that at least exist and can do good into certain matchups. That said, I have no idea how it works against blue-green control. Might just get shit on if like there is some healing or something.
Yeah, and we can say there's kind of a trend, right, where control decks, they don't have as much of a leeway. They kind of need to rely on some key legendary cards.
Yep.
For instance, if you play Villainy Green, you probably want Vaders.
Yep.
Um,
Most likely. Even if Maul is a good substitute, like
yeah, that's true.
You want Vaders. But like maybe, and you also probably need at least one Avenger, maybe
Yeah.
one Super Laser Blast and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was just scrolling on SWU-DB and I saw
Yeah.
somebody posted a budget Bosk deck, so kind of
Ooh.
an aggressive list, right?
Yeah.
Because we've seen the ramp version.
Yeah, which runs both Maul Vaders and crates, right?
Yeah. But this is more of a ECL version with a very low curve and utilizing like Steadfast Battalion, Jango
That's
Fett and
interesting.
Toro,
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
quite
bounty
interesting.
hunters. And
do they more then they more play with that bounty that gives you a 3-drop right to play
Yeah.
instead of going for the ramp?
Yeah, it does only 2 of the price in your head, but it also plays like the bounties that let you draw, give experience, and actually guild targets that lets you deal damage to base. So very heavy on the bounties.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that is like some budget alternatives for you guys. And now we're going to talk a little bit more, maybe about more decks that are closer to being meta, but they are niche in their own way, right? They are different. So we're not going to talk about the Sabine, Kira's, Han, Yellows, and stuff like that. But more about these different outsiders. We were actually going to talk about Bosk here as well. So,
yeah.
But that is, of course, the more ramp-heavy Bosk that you have played quite a bit, right, in your playtest?
Yeah. I think
what makes it good?
It's kind of a meta deck at this point, but it's pretty is having a rough time, I would say, because there are so many great aggro decks or tempo / aggro. That Bosk really has to get the Bounty Hunter's Quarry early and put a lot of units on the board to keep up. But I think the early deploy definitely helps. And now there's a trend to play the clients, which was the reason I wanted to bring it up, because that's a pretty interesting out of aspect card, which we don't see as often in meta decks, right?
That's true. I guess it's only these Vigilance and Cunnings we usually see.
Yeah. So the client is a blue villainy card, but the Bosk deck we're talking about is red and green. The reason it's a pretty decent play is because the client can give bounties to units, so then you can
just
use
by
Bosk
tapping, right?
Yeah. And since you rely very much on playing the Bounty Hunter's Quarry, a bounty that lets you look at the top cards of your deck and find a unit that costs 3 or less, and then play it for free, means that it doesn't matter if that card is out of aspect. So I think in an earlier episode we also mentioned, for instance, fetching tech.
That we meant, and we have seen it before in the U-wings where people play Bodhi and stuff, just to deal. So that is like a common design-based trend that the designers are having. These small avenues for you to play out of aspect cards without penalty, which is quite cool. My problem right now with Bosk is like, it feels like Bosk is very good against Sabine, in my opinion.
Very good, you would say?
Maybe not very good, but it is good into Sabine if you play with the 30 HP base, because Sabine is forced to play these units on board, which makes it possible for him to always lay down his bounties on something and kill it. Because if you play a mid-range deck, they can often just pass, and then like go into the next turn and play a bigger units that's going to be very hard for you to deal with, and you still have to play your bounties, so you're like behind. And then if you play against control, they just don't play units anyway, so then it's gonna be like dead cards. But I think he's very cool. I think he's a pretty solid leader when he arrives on turn 5.
Yeah, definitely.
He, I think, if you're really good at him, it could be a little bit like our Swedish boy Caleb that plays IG88 a lot. That you will definitely take people with surprise, and it can do some pretty nasty barrages in that deck as well. It has some great mid game tools as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, Bosk is definitely an option for you if you want to play something outside the meta and just surprise people.
Yeah.
Will also, if someone hasn't faced Bosk before, you will steamroll them most likely. That is what it does also.
That's true. If
they will not respect the bounties, they will like, okay, what are you doing? And then it's over, you know.
Yeah. The double ramp into Crate Dragon.
Yeah, they're gonna think it's the most OP deck ever existed.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
It's definitely a deck where you have to, or you benefit a lot from knowing how it works.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, but on to the next one. George Hudson. I think he played this at Gen Con. He's the guy who basically invented Vader Blue, the hard control deck.
Is that the guy? Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and he piloted a blue Hondo deck at Gen Con.
That is very interesting, I must say, because everyone has been talking down to Hondo Naka, right?
Yeah.
It is, and he seems, this Hudson guy, then he really seems to be like a blue control player.
Yeah.
So he knows what he does when he like creates these control decks, apparently.
Yeah.
And it's what would you say? Why would you? It does look a lot similar to the what do you call them? Krennics and Kiras. It's blue green control. But what do you think is the reason to play Hondo?
So I think we've had a lot of people praising Lompike, for instance, in Kira, which is a great smuggle card. It's a 4-cost 4/6 that you can smuggle in for 5.
Yep.
So just playing that card on curve could be like a powerful play. A 5-cost 5/7 that you smuggle in, so you kind of don't lose cards from your hand by doing it. But there are not that many smuggle cards in the list, actually. That was quite interesting to see.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm just going to stop you there. The reason why it becomes a 5/7 is because Hondo Naka makes you do an experience token to a unit when you smuggle something in. Yeah. Continue.
So I guess the fact that Hondo deploys on 6. Yeah.
Yeah, Hondo is my problem with the deck.
Yeah, he would be much better if he was on 5.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But we can talk about the other smuggle cards. There's the Collection Starhopper at 2/2/4/2 in space.
Yep.
Becomes smuggle for 3.
Yeah, becomes then a 3/3 if you want on turn 3. Not amazing, but
yeah, but you kind of have to think about you're playing decent plays from your resources.
Yes.
So
you gain a
when
card.
you are in the end game in a top deck war, then it's a lot of value.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep. That's true. That's where they really shine, right?
Yeah. And then you have a Vigilant Pursuit Craft, 3/5 Sentinel that you can smuggle for 7. Normally cost 5. And then he only plays 1 copy of First Light.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about before.
Which is quite nice that it smuggles for the same cost. So it's basically like if he wants to, a 5/8. A 4/7, which is not too bad, especially when you get it from the.
But I think my favorite smuggle cards in the list actually are the events.
Yes.
Covert Strength and Timely Intervention.
Yeah, I really like it on Timely Intervention, since you then you have a more beefy dude to come out with to tackle the problems on board, right?
Yeah.
It's a cool deck. I cannot decide if I think it's like better than the Aiden or Kira that is popular.
Yeah.
Sorry, Krennic or Kira.
Krennic,
Well,
yeah.
I guess Aiden works as well. It is they are doing the same things.
Yeah.
They are using the same event cards. Pretty much the same game style. Some of them runs Chilson and go heavy to blue, and some ignore Chilson and use more green. I think that is like the different design space.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it's worth to note he got top 8, so
Yep.
he's doing something right.
Yeah, I think the deck is probably good. It also helps that he is a good player.
Yeah.
That certainly helps. It probably also helped that nobody ever had prepared for Hondo, to be honest. So maybe like game ones, he had like a huge. I would say he probably had a huge like advantage in the game ones in a lot of the games, which
And I
is
really
like the
like-
benefit of taking a surprise deck. So
Yeah,
nothing wrong
definitely.
with that.
And I have to say, I really like Chilson. He's playing a lot of blue cards, and I think Lieutenant Chilson is a card that's maybe been a little bit overlooked in set 2.
Yeah, like if you play it right and he comes out like as a 6/6, like what people just say it's a 6/6 with Sentinel, but it's also 6 damage to the base to people. Like if you can't deal with it.
Yeah. And when you think about the current Sabine list,
Yep.
it shuts that down. There's no answer to a 6/6 or 5/5 with Sentinel if you're green Sabine on turn 4.
No, it's maybe if you have a Dark Saber, right?
Yeah.
You could, it's Dark Saber or maybe like some heroic sacrifice play, but it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And like if he has tanked one round of a Dark Saber, it's still pretty good for Chilson, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it shuts it down. Of course, you cannot beat Sabine purely on only playing Chilson. You cannot draw him every time, but it's still a great tool. He also runs the client, which is amazing against Sabine, as long as you can kill units.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool deck, especially if you want to surprise people. If you like the smuggle keyword, this is one of the decks that maybe use smuggle the most, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe that Orlando, as we talked before about.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you use his exact list, it's not he has a lot of legendaries in the sideboard, 2 Avengers and 2 Super Laser Blasts. That's why it's like a $300 deck, but his main board is not that expensive, to be honest. So
yeah,
if you find there is like alternatives to Avengers, you can play Relentless, maybe Devastator is cheaper and stuff like that. So and he actually runs Maul over Vader, which is interesting.
Indeed.
So the last one I think we haven't talked about is Double Red Inquisitor.
Yeah, I have to say I am a little bit disappointed that we haven't seen that much Grand Inquisitor in set 2.
How come?
I thought he would be much more popular because he's gotten... There are just so many new cards, and his leader ability is a very universal thing that could work in every set, right?
Yep. Like, the ability of him is pretty good. As long as there is like units that works well with it, the grit stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think this deck is there is like Raylan has posted this on the this is quite a long ago, 29th of July. So maybe this one has like updated or there is some things to do with this. It's also a very cheap deck, only like $100, something like that. I don't think it uses any. His version, I don't think it uses it. Aggression, of course, 3 aggression. That's the only legendary. So this is also, and I know that Grand Inquisitor you are disappointed it doesn't work, but there was a lot of people playing Grand Inquisitor trying to make him work in set one. He was
Yeah.
actually, I think, in most my tournaments when I went to, I actually faced at least one Grand Inquisitor. I always won, but people want to
Yeah.
make him work.
I think he is a super cool leader, and I love the design space. I love how it works with Seventh Sister and Fifth
Yeah.
Brother. And I've actually spent a lot of time trying to build a green version for this set.
Yeah. And I think, like, I do like the design space where he, as you say, like with the untapping tapping stuff. It's cool. It's different. For me, the problem has been like since his release. I think that's the reason why the decks never really gets to work. He's too weak when he deploys. Uh, like
Yeah.
like he's a 3/6 coming out of the 6. We were a little bit joking and complaining about Hondo. He comes out as a 3/7 on 6.
Yeah.
With raid, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Raid one. Obviously, Grand Inquisitor has you may deal 1 damage to another friendly unit with 3 or less power and ready it. So that could be definitely more impactful than Hondo. But if you manage to control the board against Grand Inquisitor, his ability when he flips is not good either. And
Yeah.
at the moment, unfortunately, it's quite easy to control the board versus him because he actually almost self kills his units. So it's easy to like trade them off.
Yeah.
But I think once again, this like it's an explosive list. It punishes bad draws and greedy decks. I would say. So I'm not saying it can't win games. It's like probably an okay list.
Yeah. I think like my interest in Grand Inquisitor was a little bit force oriented.
Yeah.
We've seen now with the new Han that also plays force throw, just
Yeah.
like the Ray deck and the Chirrut before that.
Yep.
So I think it will be very fun to build him around force throw. I tried in green, but I think it's a little bit too slow, and the values, the cards are not good enough. Like you don't have Poe and Wrecker, for instance. Yes, you
Yeah.
have Vader and Maul and Palpatine, but
They're a little bit later in the game.
yeah, exactly. But one thing that's really good if you play green is that you can kill your own super laser technician.
Yep. And it's just good.
Yeah.
And for free.
So it's kind of a like second resupply, or maybe even better than a resupply because it enters ready.
And with all these, I'm gonna like a final point on all these decks we've touched a little bit. If you are not a top player but still want to do kind of good in a tournament, maybe not aim to win it, you can benefit a lot of playing like one of these a little bit like different decks and become really good at it, because even like better players than you will not be as prepared on that matchup as you are, because they have maybe focused on playing. If let's say they are a Sabine player, they are focusing on the mirror or the Boba Yellow matchup, and then here you come with this Grand Inquisitor Orlando, and they're like, okay, what are you doing? So you get these game one advantages, and
and I think that's very easy to overlook how important it is to actually know your opponent and what they're playing, because it affects so much what you're resourcing as well.
Yeah, like if you don't know, like for example, when I played against the Lando decks the first couple of times, I actually just only lost against the Lando decks because I completely disrespect how fast it is. But like when I played Sabine against it, I was like, all right, Poe and Wrecker in the start hand, that's amazing, that's gonna win me the game. Started to resource other stuff, and then I realized the game is over by turn 4. It's like, these were shit cards to keep. And that can gain you like the first game win, and then you only need to be lucky in one of the 2 other games, or like a little bit more lucky than the other guy. and you got it. You will definitely get to go first in one of those two games, which is really important in this game. So you're definitely up at that point.
That's very interesting. That's a tangent, but we played the other day, and I got completely smashed by you, and then I was like, okay, could we just rewind a little bit and see what if I just claimed like
Yeah.
3 turns ago and
And
played
then
it out differently, and then I won by a landslide.
Yeah, that was not close. Initiative is super important. Like sometimes it's like a lot of games. There is like in the end game, I'm like the opponent plays something, and I'm like, I haven't played anything, but I know this guy is gonna be alive, and I have like a buff card on my hand. I just claim here and win. I just play like 6 resources, nothing, and still win the game, which is quite unique, I would say, with this game. Where in other games, I feel like that doesn't happen that much. Not as often as here. I think it happens quite a lot. So I think that was. I think we touched all the decks we wanted to touch. If you guys have some decks that you want us to talk about in the podcast that are niche or maybe wants an opinion on, just come to the Discord and we either post it there and we discuss it in the chat, or we can also bring it up and talk about it in a pod later on.
Maybe to finish up, we could each pick a leader we would like to see more decks of.
Yep. Like, okay, let's specify. Do we want it because like the leader is cool in the science space, even though it's bad, or is it something we think could be good and
you can choose and just give your reasoning?
Okay, cool. Do you want to start? Do you have like
I'm torn between two. So I was first going to say Jabba because I expected to see a lot more Jabba.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any, to be honest. Like
I
Jabba Yellow
is
cool with like Dryden Voss, or Jabba Red, which we played for the King of the Hill series, but then my audio was broken and we couldn't post it. Sorry about that, by the way. But that was also a super fun list. But it's, I don't know, maybe he's just not as good as we thought. Or maybe he will become better now when there's more of a control meta coming.
Yeah, like he could do better when the meta shifts. Could also happen, like they have not done any erratas or nerfs or anything. Like if they find Sabine, for example, because it plays a lot, doesn't necessarily win a lot, but say if they like nerf Wrecker or something, and it becomes more of this control meta, then he could just potentially start shining, so what do I like? I want to take someone with some potential, like I do, and not just because like I could pick like Afra or Hera Syndulla, because I think that would be cool. I think Afra will be good at some point because it's a discard thing. Hera will never be good. So I'm gonna go with Lando that we talked about today. I think I do think he could become actually quite good at some point. It's really, really bad to destroy your resources. I know that, but he comes out early and he puts a lot of pressure, like with even better smuggling cards, like in the future. He has a potential to at least like kind of break the game in a way, a little bit like the Han Solo leaders and Boba. Anytime you mess around with resources and sheep and stuff, so I like that people experiment with him. I do not have the patience to find that deck with him. But
maybe that's what we're gonna do after this. Make a red Lando and post it on the Discord.
Oh yeah, after Malmo game week. I will not put that down time on something. I will never ever have the courage to go with Lando red on Malmo game week. But yeah, so Lando, And what did you choose? I've already forgot. No, Jabba. It's Jabba. So we want more land on Jabba. One hero, one villain.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I will just give an honorable mention to Cassian because he's cool.
Yeah.
And I think he has
Jonah
potential,
actually
but
thought he would be good in this set.
yeah, I did. Yeah.
I also think he has the problem with Grand Inquisitor. Like, he has a good ability, but his flip turn is too weak at the moment. Yeah. I hope actually in Star Wars Destiny they had also these kind of leaders. They had this they called it Balance of the Force, and they buffed and nerfed leaders a little bit. So it would be cool if they actually did something like that and actually buffed and nerfed some leaders. I don't think they will, since they release 18 all the time. So I think they just say new is better. But so they will probably only nerf if they do, because that's less messy text-wise. It's hard to remember how to be a new player, and like, this guy does not. He's better than he says. So
yeah,
but that would be cool. But yeah. So there is one episode left before Malmö Game Week. So we're gonna talk a bit more about things there. We'll see what that will be about. Probably a lot about Jason's draft. Hopefully he wins tonight. And don't forget to like and subscribe to all our content channels. You can also donate on Patreon. Well, donate, but follow, subscribe, whatever it's called. And see you next week. Thank you for joining me tonight, Jonah.
It was a blast. See you next week.
May the force be with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.